Today we're going to show you a different food preservation technique. This time we're going to show you how to do some pressure canning. Alright, so a while back we did a video on what to do with a bunch of chickens that you just processed. Now, I don't even know how long ago it was. It was quite a while. Anyway, we took 40 chickens at that time, 40 chickens, 40 whole birds, cut them up in such a way where we pieced them out, and we got them into a standard size refrigerator. And at the time in that video, I think I even told you that we could have gotten 50, and with the benefit of hindsight and with packing it a little bit differently, I think we could have gotten close to 60 birds in that one freezer. Well, I've been getting a lot of questions over the past couple of months concerning people that have, I don't know, maybe they're panic buying, maybe they're wondering what to do or how to put back food or, you know, some way in which to preserve it. Well, we showed you all the jerky we made, which, bam, right here. Now we're going to show you another way to preserve your food. Maybe a way most people are a little bit intimidated by because it requires a little bit of pressure. And that, when I say pressure, I mean like a pressure canner. Like, here's the bottom of it right now. Well, folks, we're gonna take some of the fear out of doing that. I'm gonna show you how we do it today. Now, I got parts and pieces. Let's say you have only that same refrigerator space and you need additional space in which to do this. Now, you're gonna need a pressure canner. You're gonna obviously need some chicken, beef, pork, coatimundi, raccoon. The neighbor down the road, his favorite thing to can is bear meat. He swears it's the best thing in the world. What we got here are some legs and thighs that I cut up a little bit earlier, just kind of separated them. And in here we got some breasts. Over there on the stove, and everything looks in disarray right now because I'm in the kitchen, and that's just how we roll out here. Back there we're sanitizing some jars. And in this case, we're using quart jars because I'm gonna put everything in it. Okay, with that said, let me show you how it's done. We got some water boiling right there in that pot. We're gonna take this quart jar, I'm just gonna stick it in there. I'm not even sure this is entirely necessary with this type of canning method, but hey, it's an old habit, so we're gonna let that sanitize for a minute. All right, this thing's been in here for a little while. You wanna let it go. I let it go for about a minute, but now my tongs, they've been sitting out. And folks, there's a lot of microbiology going on here. So I'm gonna just put them in there. Before I actually snatch it out of there, I'm just gonna kind of leave it in there for a second, kind of sanitize the tongs a little bit. Probably not doing a whole lot, but hey, it's the college microbiology course coming out in me, which maybe if we knew a little bit more about microbiology, we'd have different feelings about the protocols of what are going on right now. So I'll just kind of lean it over the side here and let it drip out. And then I'll get it over here to my drying rack, keep it upside down, because when you flip it over, you got a chance for the microbes floating down in the air to get down in this thing. All right, right now I got those jars over there sitting upside down. They're all ready, waiting for me. Now, I don't even put the lids in there until I'm ready to start canning this stuff. Let me grab a jar. I'm gonna keep it upside down until I'm about ready to do this. So I already know, I'll try to talk as I'm doing this. So, okay, I'm gonna take a leg, I'm gonna face it down, take another one, face it up. Now, in this quart jar, I know what I can put in this thing. I know I can get 2 legs, 2 thighs, and depending on the size of the breasts, I can get maybe 1 or perhaps even 2 in there. I want to pack these tight, and you want to get it down in there as best you can. I'm gonna smush it down in there. Now I know I got 1 little tender here. I know I can get that in there. I want to leave 1 inch of headspace on the top of this thing. So I get it all down in there. I know I got about 1 inch of headspace. Okay, hold steady. Let me wash my hands off. All right, so I got a teaspoon of salt in there. Next is gonna be a little bit of garlic. Now the salt also is gonna help in terms of preservation. You know, there's a lot of times, in fact, with some of the things that I cure in butchery, there's nothing but salt on it, like bacon and a number of other things. Okay, so here, this is all about a matter of preference. So I like rosemary with chicken, and thyme always goes with chicken. Everything I put in here was roughly a teaspoon, except for the garlic. Of course, that can be a little strong, so maybe it was a half a teaspoon. Now, I got some regular white vinegar in here. I'm just gonna kind of dip that. And this is a matter of preference also. I like to wipe the lid with a little bit of white vinegar, a little added safety that we're putting into this thing. Now let me go ahead and get the lid. Okay, here's the lid. I'm not going to touch any of that. I'm just going to get it on there. Now let's get the rim. Now some folks say they don't like to use these rings. Well, I ain't one of them. I like the ring. I'm going to tighten it down, just hand tight, nothing fancy. Some folks don't like to do that at all. I've heard a bunch of reasons as to why. None of them make any sense to me. But I put the ring on there, and if the seal ain't good, believe me, I'm going to find out later. So here's one down. We got 2 legs, 2 thighs, a breast, a tender, all in here, and we still got an inch of head space. Now with these heritage breed birds, I know this is exactly what I can put in there. Now we got our handy dandy canner with 3 quarts of water in it. One down. Now it's time to do the rest of them. All right, so in this particular pot, I got a larger one, but either way, you're only going to get 7 of these quart jars in this thing. So go ahead, we're going to fix the lid. I can never seem to get this thing the first time. Okay, there we go. And then in this particular model, it slides on. Now, the critical thing is on your pressure gauge, you're going to want to know what your altitude is. I'm at about, I'm pretty high. And based on that altitude, I know that we need to be somewhere around 12 pounds per square inch. So obviously I'm going to want that somewhere around 12, not below. So I'm going to stick this on the stove. I'm going to get it on high. I'm going to let it go on high until steam is coming out of this port right here. And then when it gets up to, when it's doing that for 10 minutes, this is going to go on, and then this little valve here, or whatever it is, it's going to pop up when it gets under pressure. And so I'm going to watch that. And folks, this is not something you really ought to walk away from. It's going to take, for this, I mean, for bone-in chicken, it's supposed to be like an hour. For chicken without the bone, it's somewhere around 90 minutes. So I'm going to go 90 minutes anyway, because I got the chicken on the bone, I got chicken breast, I got the whole 9 yards. It's not going to hurt it to go longer. Plus, there's a couple of other reasons that I'll explain when it's all over as to why I'm going to prefer to take it longer. So I'm going to take this over to the stove, get it fired up, and now it's just a waiting game. All right, so we got a batch done, and we got another one on the stove. That's what I'm talking about. So here we are. We got 6 quart jars of 2 thighs, 2 legs. Depending on how big those were, I've gotten up to as many 3 chicken breasts in there. Now, if you look at this, at first glance, it looks like somebody's science experiment. I get it. I know it doesn't look very appealing, right? And these are not the jars I particularly like to work with. I prefer pint-sized jars. Now, this is roast beef that we did a little earlier. None of it looks, I mean, if you look at it, you're thinking, oh man, do I really want to eat that? It makes its own juice. It's the whole shebang right in there. Let's say you don't necessarily have the freezer space, or you have frequent power outages, or you may have long-term power outages. Well, if this stuff is put in a dry, dark place, it keeps quite a while. I remember in Kansas City, they had this Steamboat Arabia Museum where the stuff that they had canned back prior to the Civil War was still good in these jars. Now, granted, it was under, I don't know, maybe 90 feet of soil at the time they picked it up, but you get the point. If you keep this stuff in a good environment, it's going to last for quite a while. So I put the legs and everything else in there because, folks, if by some chance, remember, we're always have 1 foot in preparedness. So if you found yourself in a position of where, let's say you were in let's call it a survival position, whatever the case may be. Well, the 2 hardest things to find in nature, well, clearly is glass jars, but in addition to that, believe it or not, there's fat. That's the hardest thing. Natural fat is the hardest thing to find in nature, so you got it all in there too. Why the bones? Well, what do you have in those bones? Think about it, folks. When you make broth, when you make bone broth or anything else, you got bones in there, right? Well, it's already in here too, so you get the benefit of those minerals. I mean, I guess if you were hard up, you could even eat the bones if you wanted to. But folks, this, more than anything, is for those people out there who keep reaching out to me and asking, gee, I don't have freezer space. I don't have time. Look, if you don't have a canner maybe find someone who does, because right now it's easier to find Bin Laden than it is to find a canner, a pressure canner. Or let's say you lack the funds. Times are hard right now. Maybe team up with one person, two people, maybe several families. Do this as a gang. Maybe you have the meat, maybe you have the resources, and another person has a pot. Whatever the case may be, folks, there are options out there if you need it. So this is a way to make some shelf-stable grub should you ever require it. And in our case, it's something I want to do. As Jack Spirko says, if times get tough or even if they don't. But frankly, I need to make room out there for other things that are coming in terms of the animals I want to process. Because right now I'm at a standstill unless I move some of the stuff I currently have in the freezer. So this is one way to do it. And it's also a way to preserve it for a very long time without, electricity or anything else you may require. So folks, you can can this, you can can just about anything. Like I said, the guy down the road, his favorite meal is canned berry. He tells me he pops the lid on it, eats it while he's watching TV or something like that. It was crazy. Well, folks, this is more of the preparedness stuff, but it's also permaculture because we're preserving our harvest. So this is another way where you can produce more than you ever thought expected and have a place to put it. So hope you like this video, folks. So subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends about us. And until next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for permaculture is my passion. And here's why. We'll see you next time.